The tires of my Subaru crunched over the gravel driveway at 8:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I glanced at the dashboard clock and thought, I promised her bedtime stories by 8. The 12-hour shift at Denver General had wrecked me. My scrubs still smelled like antiseptic, and the coffee I'd spilled during a code blue that afternoon. All I wanted was to hold my daughter, read her 3 pages of whatever picture book she was obsessed with this week, and collapse into bed. Our house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac in Lakewood, a 3-bedroom craftsman that Marcus and I had bought 2 years into our marriage. The porch light was on, casting a warm yellow circle on the front steps. Through the living room window, I could see movement, shadows passing behind the curtains. Music was playing. Not the soft lullaby playlist I left for Sophia's bedtime routine, but something louder, something with bass. I grabbed my bag and walked to the front door. Before I even turned the key, I heard it. Laughter. Adult laughter, high and shrill, mixed with the squealing of children. Not Sophia's voice. She was a quiet child, the kind who whispered to her stuffed animals and drew pictures in corners. These were louder kids, rowdier kids. I opened the door and the smell hit me first. Nail polish. Strong, chemical, sweet. The living room looked like a beauty salon had exploded. My coffee table, the one I'd refinished myself during my first pregnancy, was covered in bottles of nail polish, cotton balls, half-eaten pizza slices on paper plates, and several shopping bags from stores I couldn't afford. On my couch, my husband Marcus sat with his arm draped casually behind my half-sister Vanessa. Her 9-year-old twins, Aiden and Brooklyn, were jumping on the love seat, their shoes still on, pizza sauce on their fingers. Vanessa looked up at me with that smile. That particular smile she'd perfected since we were teenagers, the one that said, I belong here more than you do. Hey, you're home early, Marcus said, pulling his arm back a little too quickly. He stood up, wiping his hands on his jeans. How was your shift? I stared at the room. The chaos. The mess on my furniture. Where's Sophia? Marcus waved his hand vaguely toward the hallway. She's around. You know how she gets when the twins are here. She wanted to be alone. She's sensitive like that. Vanessa let out a theatrical sigh. Honestly, Elena, that child needs to learn to socialize. My two are so easygoing. Sophia just sat there glaring at them like they were aliens. It's not healthy. I set my bag down slowly. My nursing training had taught me to stay calm in emergencies, to assess before reacting. But something was crawling up my spine, a cold dread that had nothing to do with exhaustion. Sophia, I called out. Baby, Mama's home. Silence. I walked past the living room, past the kitchen where more pizza boxes sat open on the counter, past the bathroom where the bathtub was filled with lukewarm water and what looked like the remnants of a bubble bath Vanessa's kids had taken. In my bathtub, with my daughter's bath toys floating forgotten in the cloudy water. Sophia's bedroom door was open. The light was off. Her bed was empty, the covers pulled up neatly the way she always left them in the morning. Her drawing pad sat on her little desk, open to a half-finished picture of a house with 2 stick figures. Just 2. A tall one and a small one. No one else. My pulse quickened. I checked the guest room. Empty. The garage door that connected to the house was slightly ajar, and when I pulled it open, a wall of cold air hit me in the face. Denver, in February. The garage was uninsulated, and I could see my breath in the dim light from the single bulb overhead. The concrete floor was freezing, I could feel it through my nursing clogs. And there, behind Marcus's workbench, tucked between a stack of moving boxes we'd never unpacked and the water heater, was my daughter. Sophia was curled into a ball on the bare concrete. She was wearing her thin cotton nightgown, the lavender one, with the little daisies. No socks, no blanket. She was hugging her sketchbook to her chest like a shield, and her body was shaking with the kind of silent crying that children do when they've learned that making noise only makes things worse. Sophia. My voice cracked. She looked up. Her face was blotchy, her lips had a bluish tint from the cold, and her eyes, those enormous brown eyes, were swimming with tears and something worse. Resignation. Mama. She whispered it like a prayer. I crossed the garage in 3 steps, dropped to my knees on the freezing concrete, and pulled her into my arms. She was ice cold. Her little fingers, the ones that held crayons so carefully, that drew those beautiful pictures, were stiff and red. How long had she been out here? Baby, oh my God, baby, I'm here. Why are you out here? It's freezing. She buried her face in my neck. Her cold skin burned against mine. Brooklyn took my sketchbook. She said my drawings were ugly. She was ripping the pages. I tried to take it back and Aiden pushed me. I fell on the coffee table and the nail polish spilled. Aunt Vanessa said I ruined everything and I was a brat. She told Marcus I needed to go sit somewhere until I learned to behave. Marcus said, go to the garage and think about what I did. Each word was a knife. He sent you to the garage. I repeated it, my voice barely above a whisper. In your nightgown. In February. She nodded against my neck. He said I was being dramatic. Just like you. Something inside me didn't break. It solidified. It turned into something cold and hard and absolutely certain. I stood up with Sophia in my arms. She weighed almost nothing, or maybe the adrenaline made her feel that way. I carried her back into the house, through the hallway, into the living room where Marcus and Vanessa were laughing about something on his phone. Marcus saw me first. His smile died. What the hell, Elena, he started. I held up one hand. My daughter was shivering against my chest, her cold little body a testament to everything wrong with this picture. She was on the concrete floor, Marcus, in her nightgown. Her lips are blue. It's 28 degrees in that garage. I checked the thermostat on my way in. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. It's not like we locked her in a freezer. She needed a timeout. Your kid has 0 discipline. That's your problem, not mine. I looked at Marcus. He wouldn't meet my eyes. That told me everything. Get out, I said to Vanessa. Take your children and get out of my house right now. Vanessa's mouth dropped open. Marcus stepped forward, his face flushing. You can't just throw her out. She's family. You're overreacting, Elena. You always overreact. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't raise my voice. I found a place inside me that was quieter than silence, colder than the garage floor. You have 5 minutes. After that, I call the police. Vanessa grabbed her kids with exaggerated huffing, snatching up shopping bags and muttering about ungrateful people. Marcus followed her to the door, whispering something I couldn't hear. I didn't care. I was already moving. I took Sophia to her room, wrapped her in her warmest blanket, put wool socks on her feet, and held her until her shivering stopped. Then I set her gently on the bed with her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Buttons, and kissed her forehead. Mama's going to make some phone calls, okay? I'll be right in the next room, you're safe now. She grabbed my hand. Are we leaving? The question broke me and rebuilt me in the same breath. A 7-year-old shouldn't know to ask that question. But mine did, because mine was smart, and mine had been paying attention to things no child should have to notice. Yes, baby. We're leaving. I went to the kitchen, closed the door, and called Rachel Torres. She was the best family attorney in Denver, and I knew this because I'd stitched up her daughter's chin in the ER 6 months ago and she'd handed me her card and said, if you ever need anything. I'd kept the card in my wallet like a talisman, not knowing why, maybe knowing exactly why. She answered on the 3rd ring, despite it being nearly 10 o'clock on a Thursday night. Rachel, this is Elena Marsh. I'm the nurse from Denver General. Elena, of course. What's going on? I told her everything. The party, the garage, Sophia's blue lips, the concrete floor. I spoke in clinical terms because that was the only way I could get through it without screaming. When I finished, Rachel was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Elena, listen carefully. Do not confront Marcus again tonight, do not engage. Take Sophia and leave the house. Go to a hotel, use your personal account, not a joint one. Do not tell him where you are. Do not answer calls or texts. Screenshot everything he sends you. I'm filing emergency custody and a temporary restraining order first thing in the morning. The garage detail is our foundation. A child in sub-freezing temperatures without adequate clothing constitutes endangerment. Can you get out safely tonight? Yes. Then go. Now. Call me from wherever you end up. I packed a bag in 4 minutes. Clothes for Sophia, her medications, Mr. Buttons, her sketchbook, the damaged one with the torn pages, because that was evidence now. Toiletries. My laptop. The folder of financial documents I kept in the bottom drawer of my desk. I don't know why I grabbed that last one. Instinct, maybe. Or something deeper. Marcus was in the backyard on his phone when I carried Sophia to the car. She was half asleep, wrapped in her blanket, clutching her rabbit. I buckled her into her booster seat, the one that was always in my car, because I was the one who drove her to school every morning. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw Marcus come around the side of the house. He stood there, phone in hand, watching me leave. He didn't run after me, he didn't even look surprised. That told me more than anything. We drove to a Holiday Inn Express off I-70. Clean, anonymous, warm. I carried Sophia inside, got us a room on the 3rd floor, and laid her down on the queen bed. She fell asleep immediately, the exhausted sleep of a child whose body had been pumping stress hormones for hours. I sat in the dark and watched her breathe. My phone lit up. Marcus. 8 texts in rapid succession. Where are you? This is insane. Come home so we can talk. You're blowing this way out of proportion. She was fine. Vanessa says you humiliated her in front of her kids. If you don't come back, I'm calling the police and reporting my car stolen. That's my daughter too, Elena. You can't just take her. I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have sent her to the garage. It was stupid. Come home. Elena, answer your phone. Fine. I'll find you. I screenshotted every message and emailed them to Rachel with a single line. He's threatening to call police and says he'll find us. Documentation per your instructions. Rachel responded within minutes. Perfect. His digital footprint is building our case. Get some rest. I'll have papers filed by 9 a.m. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in that uncomfortable hotel chair and stared at the red numbers on the alarm clock, ticking through every minute until dawn. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Not Marcus this time. A number I recognized with a cold jolt. My stepmother, Diane. I answered because ignoring Diane was like ignoring a forest fire. It didn't make it stop. It just gave it time to grow. Elena Marie, what have you done now? Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Good morning, Diane. Sophia and I are safe, thanks for asking. Marcus called me in hysterics. He says you've lost your mind. He says you took Sophia and disappeared. He says you're trying to destroy him. I always told your father you were unstable. Did he tell you he sent my daughter to sit on a concrete floor in a 28-degree garage in her nightgown because your daughter told him to? Silence. Then. That's not what Vanessa said. Vanessa said Sophia threw a tantrum and needed to cool down. Cool down. I almost laughed. In a garage. In February. In Denver. That's your definition of parenting? You've always been dramatic, Elena, just like your mother. This is why no one can live with you. You push everyone away. First Kevin, now Marcus. Maybe the problem isn't the men. Maybe it's you. Every word was an old wound reopened with surgical precision. The lifetime of being told I was too much, too sensitive, too difficult. Diane had been saying it since I was 12 years old, and my father married her, bringing Vanessa into my life like a beautiful, venomous gift. Are you finished? I asked. Because I have a lawyer to call. If you go through with this, Diane said, her voice going formal and cold, I will testify against you. I will tell the court exactly what kind of person you are. Erratic, vindictive, unfit. You do that, Diane. I said it calmly. And I'll make sure the court sees exactly what kind of grandmother lets a child freeze. I hung up and blocked her number. It felt like surgery. Painful, but necessary. Rachel filed everything by 9:03 a.m. Emergency temporary custody. Restraining order. Motion to freeze joint accounts. She called me as I was feeding Sophia pancakes at a Denny's, the normalcy of syrup and orange juice feeling like a hallucination. It's done, Rachel said. He'll be served by noon. Now here's what matters. Do not engage with him. Do not engage with Vanessa. Do not engage with Diane. Every interaction is a risk. You are a calm, protective mother. He is the man who put his child in a freezing garage. We keep it that simple. I listened. Unlike the woman in the stories people tell, I actually listened to my lawyer. Because I'd spent 12 years in emergency medicine, and I knew that the patients who survived were the ones who followed the protocol. 2 days later, Rachel called with an edge in her voice. They filed a counter-motion. His attorney, some guy named Dale Brewer, is claiming parental alienation. He says you abducted Sophia, that you're psychologically manipulating her, and that Marcus's visit to the garage was normal discipline. They want an emergency hearing tomorrow for joint custody restoration. My stomach dropped. They're calling a timeout in a freezing garage normal discipline? They're calling it whatever they think a judge will buy. But here's the thing, Elena, they don't know what we have. What do we have? I spent yesterday pulling financial records. Your joint savings account has been hemorrhaging money for 14 months. Monthly transfers of $500 to something called MV Capital LLC. Ring any bells? No. It's a shell company registered in Wyoming. Marcus is the sole managing member. And here's the interesting part. MV Capital has been making payments to a company called Alpine Vista Investments. Alpine Vista is currently under federal investigation for running a real estate Ponzi scheme targeting small investors in Colorado and Utah. The room tilted. How much? So far I can trace $127,000 from your joint accounts through MV Capital to Alpine Vista. There may be more. I've requested a forensic audit. Elena, your husband hasn't just been neglecting your daughter. He's been stealing from you and funneling the money into a criminal enterprise. And based on the payment structure, I'd bet my license Vanessa is involved. I sat down on the hotel bed. Sophia was in the bathroom brushing her teeth, humming a song from school. The innocence of that humming against the reality of what Rachel was telling me was almost too much to hold. What do? We go to that hearing tomorrow, and we let them hang themselves. They think they're walking into a slam dunk. They have no idea we're sitting on a bomb. The hearing was at the Adams County Family Court. I wore a navy blazer, pressed slacks, minimal jewelry. Rachel had coached me. You're a head nurse. You save lives, you look like it. Marcus walked in with Dale Brewer, a thick-necked man who looked like he charged by the bluster. Marcus had cleaned up, shaved, put on a button-down. He looked like a concerned father from a stock photo. He didn't look at me. Dale Brewer went first, painting a portrait of Marcus as a devoted stay-at-home dad whose wife worked brutal hours and compensated for her absence with control. He described my departure as impulsive and irrational. He called the garage incident a minor disciplinary choice. He used the word overreaction 4 times. Then Marcus took the stand. He was good. He talked about reading Sophia bedtime stories. He talked about making her lunches. He talked about how much he missed her. He described me as loving but controlling, a woman who used her medical authority to dominate every situation. He said Vanessa was just a supportive sister-in-law who wanted to help. When he said that Sophia was perfectly fine in the garage and that it was heated, I clenched my fists under the table until my nails bit into my palms. Rachel stood up. Mr. Marsh, you testified that the garage is heated. Is that correct? Marcus nodded. Yes, there's a space heater. Rachel produced a photograph. This is a photo taken by my client showing the garage on the night in question. Can you point out the space heater? Marcus stared at the photo. The garage was bare concrete, boxes, tools, no heater anywhere. His jaw tightened. It must have been moved. Rachel didn't push. She let the lie sit in the air like smoke. Mr. Marsh, you testified that Vanessa Evans is simply a supportive family member. Can you describe the nature of your financial relationship with Miss Evans? Dale Brewer jumped up. Objection. Relevance. Your Honor, Rachel said calmly. The respondent's financial conduct is directly relevant to the welfare of the child and the integrity of the marital estate. Judge Patterson, a silver-haired woman with reading glasses perched on her nose, nodded. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mr. Marsh. Marcus shifted in his seat. We don't have a financial relationship, she's family. Rachel placed a folder on the table. Your Honor, I'd like to submit evidence of 14 months of wire transfers from the Marsh's joint savings account to a shell company called MV Capital LLC, of which the respondent is sole managing member. From MV Capital, funds totaling $127,000 were transferred to Alpine Vista Investments, a company currently under federal investigation for fraud. The courtroom went silent. Marcus's face drained of color, his attorney grabbed his arm and whispered something urgent. Marcus shook his head, his mouth opening and closing. Furthermore, Rachel continued, payment records from MV Capital show regular disbursements labeled consulting fees to an account held by Vanessa Evans. Miss Evans was being paid from stolen marital funds for her role in directing money to a fraudulent investment scheme. Judge Patterson removed her glasses. Mr. Marsh, I want to be very clear. You are under oath. Did you establish MV Capital LLC and transfer funds from your joint marital account without your wife's knowledge or consent? Marcus looked at his lawyer. Dale Brewer looked at the table. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right, Marcus said, his voice barely audible. The judge's expression hardened into something I recognized from my own face in the mirror. The look of someone who has just realized they're dealing with something worse than they thought. Mr. Brewer, your motion for joint custody restoration is denied. I am awarding sole temporary custody to the petitioner. I am issuing a temporary restraining order prohibiting the respondent from contacting the petitioner or the minor child. I am also referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for review of potential criminal conduct. Mr. Marsh, I strongly suggest you retain criminal defense counsel. The gavel came down. Marcus sat motionless, a man watching his own life collapse in real time. As Rachel walked me to the elevator, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I showed it to Rachel. Block it, she said. And forward it to me. If it's Vanessa, it's a violation of the restraining order. I blocked it without reading the message. 3 weeks later, I was unpacking boxes in our new apartment, a small 2-bedroom near City Park, when Rachel called. Turn on Channel 7. I found the remote. The screen showed 2 FBI agents leading Marcus out of our old house in handcuffs. Behind him, also in handcuffs, was Vanessa. Her hair was wild, her face contorted in rage. She was screaming something at the cameras. Marcus kept his head down. The anchor's voice was steady. Federal agents have arrested 2 Denver residents in connection with the Alpine Vista investment fraud case. David Marcus Marsh, 38, and Vanessa Marie Evans, 36, face charges of wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. Prosecutors say the pair funneled over $200,000 in stolen funds through a network of shell companies into the fraudulent real estate scheme. I watched it twice. Then I turned off the TV and went to Sophia's room. She was sitting on the floor, drawing. The picture showed a house on a hill with a garden. 2 figures stood in front, one tall, one small, holding hands. At the top, in her careful 7-year-old handwriting, she'd written, "Our new home." I knelt beside her. "That's beautiful, baby." She looked up at me with those enormous eyes. "Mama, can we get a dog at our new home?" I pulled her into my arms and held her so tight. "Absolutely." "What kind?" "A big fluffy one. The kind that sits on your feet." I laughed. "The kind that sits on your feet." Done. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Marcus appeared via video from a federal detention facility. He wore an orange jumpsuit. He didn't look at the camera. When the judge asked if he accepted the terms, he said, "Yes, Your Honor," in a voice that sounded like it came from the bottom of a well. Full custody, no visitation, no alimony, no claim on any assets. He signed away everything, including his parental rights, as part of a plea deal that reduced his sentence from 15 years to 8. Vanessa, who had testified against him in exchange for leniency, got 4 years. The irony was perfect and poisonous. The woman he'd betrayed me for had betrayed him right back. The person he'd sacrificed his family for hadn't hesitated to sacrifice him. A letter arrived 6 months after the sentencing. Federal prison postmark. I recognized Marcus's handwriting on the envelope, sloppier than it used to be. I held it over the kitchen sink for a long time, then I opened it. Elena. I don't know why I'm writing this, maybe because there's no one left. Vanessa testified against me, said the whole thing was my idea. My mother won't take my calls. I sit in this cell and I think about Sophia drawing at her little desk. I think about the garage. I think about your face when you came through that door. I was so angry at you for so long. But it wasn't you I was angry at. It was me. I threw everything away. I don't expect forgiveness, I don't deserve it. Just tell Sophia her dad is sorry. Tell her I loved her, even though I didn't know how to show it. Don't write back, there's nothing left to say. Marcus. I read it once. I struck a match from the box I kept by the stove. The paper caught quickly, the edges curling brown and black, his words dissolving into ash. I washed the remains down the drain and dried my hands. That night, I stood on the back porch of our new house, a little bungalow in Aurora with a fenced yard and a garden that was just starting to show the first green shoots of spring. The air smelled like rain and fresh dirt. Through the kitchen window, I could see Sophia at the table, doing homework. Mr. Button sat in the chair beside her. At her feet, a giant golden doodle named Biscuit was sleeping with his head on her shoes, exactly the kind of dog that sits on your feet. My phone buzzed. Rachel. Just wanted to let you know. The lily pad clinic approval came through. The county approved your nonprofit status for the Children's Advocacy Center. You're officially open for business next month. I smiled. The lily pad. Sophia had named it. A place where kids could come after the worst had happened, where nurses and counselors and lawyers worked together to make sure no child sat alone on a cold floor ever again. Thank you, Rachel. For everything. That's what I'm here for. I put the phone down and walked inside. Sophia looked up from her homework. Mama, how do you spell beautiful? Beautiful. She wrote it down carefully, her tongue poking out in concentration. Then she held up her paper. She'd written a sentence for her English assignment. My mama is beautiful and brave, and she always comes to find me. I knelt beside her and wrapped my arms around her small, warm body. She smelled like crayons and the lavender shampoo she insisted on because it was purple. Biscuit lifted his head and thumped his tail against the floor. The garage was a memory. Marcus was a name on a document, Vanessa was a cautionary tale. Diane's number was still blocked, and I felt nothing about that except peace. Outside, the Colorado sky was turning pink and gold, the kind of sunset that looks like a promise. Sophia leaned her head against my shoulder. Mama? Yeah, baby? I like our life now. I pressed my lips to the top of her head. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. And I meant it. Every single word. Because for the first time in years, the future wasn't something I feared. It was something I was building, one day at a time, with my own 2 hands, in a house that was warm, with a daughter who was safe, and a door that was finally, permanently closed on everything that had tried to break us. We weren't broken. We were free.